Can the New York Jets make it 3 in a row with a win over the Green Bay Packers? We're going to preview it. Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary, back with another video, and today I'll be talking about the Green Bay Packers versus the New York Jets. Before we get started today, I wanted to mention you can follow on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. If you haven't already, please make sure to check out the Just Jets podcast. New episodes drop every single Wednesday, and of course, Monday through Thursday, you also have the Jet Report, which features me doing a live stream on YouTube, and then it is also available after the fact in audio form, so you can subscribe to get it in podcast form. It's a whole ton of fun. We do a topic of the day. We answer questions. It's a good time. You should hang out. So the Green Bay Packers are 3-2, which is the same record as the New York Jets. So it's a little bit surprising to some to see these teams kind of at the same point. The Packers, luckily for them, are in a god-awful division. The Lions stink. The Bears are maybe worse. And Minnesota is the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins is not a threat to Aaron Rodgers. So they're 3-2, but it doesn't really matter because they're going to end up winning the NFC North. It's not really an issue. The New York Jets are surprising to some 3-2. They beat the Miami Dolphins this past week. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they also beat the Browns in a miracle play in week 2. So they are 3-2 and heading on the road to Green Bay. Now, you might be wondering, where do these teams rank in DVOA, offensive and defensive DVOA? They are kind of far apart offensively. The Jets are 21st. The Packers are 8th, while in defensive DVOA, the Jets are slightly better at 21, while the Packers are 23rd. They are two different kinds of 3-2s, though. The Jets, it's an optimistic 3-2. They're not supposed to be here. For the Packers, they definitely aren't supposed to be here, as they are coming off of a loss to the New York Giants in London in a game that many picked them to win, myself included, and thought they'd win pretty handedly. And really, the last 2 weeks, they haven't looked very good at all. And we'll get more into that and if this is a winnable game for the Jets. But to spotlight, we're going to do the Mojo Spotlight segment where we look at two players. I'm going to look at one Jet, and I'm going to look at one Packer who I am interested in investing in and how they're trending. Zach Wilson is who we were talking about for the New York Jets. He is up 0.58% this week. He is currently trading at 34.74, which is good. I mean, I expect that to continue to go up. That's pretty good value right now. And with how he's played through the first 2 games, I like what we've seen from Zach Wilson. I only think that's going to improve. A.J. Dillon is selling at just 10.05, and he was down a little bit this week, down 1.63%, but he's a back who I think eventually is going to end up taking over for Aaron Jones, and I really like Dillon's potential. This is kind of someone who you buy maybe on the lower side and stash for a while as, his career continues to grow. Okay, so into the preview here. The biggest thing for the New York Jets, and we mentioned it, like the Packers really aren't playing their best football. They lost a game they probably should have won to the Giants, and they barely scraped by against the New England Patriots, who were but who had to go to their third string quarterback in Bailey Zappi. So the key for the New York Jets this week, I really think, is going to be stopping the run. And we talked about that yesterday on the Jet Report, but Aaron Jones is just so good. He is averaging 6.4 yards per carry. He's been extremely effective. And obviously, A.J. Dillon is a big body guy, and they're different. Jones is good, out of the backfield catching the ball, and Dillon's more of the smash you in the mouth. I'm going to run over you because I'm big, kind of a running back. But both of them are effective. They like to use both of them. Actually, Dillon has more carries on the year than Jones does right now, but if I'm the Jets, this sounds crazy because you're going up against Aaron Rodgers, who's one of the best quarterbacks of all time, one of the best quarterbacks of this generation. But Rodgers hasn't really looked that good yet. There's been 3 times this year where he's been under 250 yards. This past week, he didn't look great. And obviously, in the first week of the year, he did not throw a touchdown pass. He's thrown 2 in every game since then. But if you can contain, and I'm saying contain, I guess, in air quotes, Aaron Rodgers to like 2 passing touchdowns and maybe get a pick and under 250 yards, then I think you're going to be in pretty good shape. And that's kind of the thing that I wanted to get into next is I have a lot of faith in this New York Jets defense going up against this wide receiver core. Randall Cobb, how old is Randall Cobb at this point? I don't He's not the same player he was in like 2013, 2014, Randall Cobb. Alan Lazard is not very good. And yeah, they have some exciting young guys like Dobbs and Watson, but I don't think they're quite there yet. And Sauce, Reed, and Carter are legitimately probably the best corner trio in the NFL. Like, that sounds crazy that the Jets, who were starting Bryce Hall and Brandon Echols last year, now have probably the best cornerback trio out there with Sauce, Reed, and Carter. It's unreal. It's truly it's a blessing. And while obviously Rodgers doesn't necessarily have the passing weapons that he once did, he's still, you have to be able to respect him. But I'm more confident in that, especially with how the front four is playing. Carl Lawson's back to form. He had his best game as a Jet. He was winning at like a 47% clip this past week. Quinnen Williams is playing at a Pro Bowl level right now. John Franklin Myers is still one of the more underrated players. Bryce Huff has been phenomenal since he's been activated the last couple of weeks. Obviously, we hope Jermaine Johnson's okay, but then you have, Michael Clemens, who you could rotate in and stuff. And they're deep. They're very deep on that line, and they've looked like what we've grown to expect really over the last 2 or 3 weeks or so. So with that's absolutely a positive sign and something that you hope continues. Now, when you look at the Packers defensively, they haven't allowed a ton of passing yards and passing touchdowns, but the passer rating allowed, the Packers have allowed a 100.2 passer rating, which is honestly one of the worst in the league. Like, they are ranked 24 out of 32 teams in passer rating allowed, and they went up against not too many good quarterbacks. Just last week, they went up against Daniel Jones, who looked good. We mentioned Bailey Zappi, Justin Fields in another game. So obviously, like, Kirk Cousins can put up numbers. We know that. They played him. Tom Brady is another one. But in 3 of their 5 games, they went up against quote unquote lesser quarterbacks and were still, putting up really good numbers. So potentially this is a time for Zach Wilson to look good. We'll get into his stat prediction in a second here. But where I think the Jets shine is Breece Hall. Oh my God, was he so good last week? And I think he has another monster week. They are 30th in the NFL against the run in DVOA. That's how bad that defense is against the run. And that is a recipe for me to say, if I'm LaFleur going up against his brother's team, I'm saying, okay, I am going to run the ball with my running back that everyone gave me shit for trading up for, or I guess it was Joe Douglas who really did it, but it was for Mike LaFleur's offense. And he's been an absolute stud. I think he has a monster game. So I guess we'll do that. We'll get into the predictions. I have predictions for Zach Wilson. We'll do Breece Hall and a couple of receivers as well. Zach Wilson, I think, is solid this week. I don't think it's going to be amazing numbers, but I think it'll be very solid. And you'll go, okay, that's a really nice Zach Wilson day. I have him at 22 of 32 for 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks. Zach Wilson was close to having a couple passing touchdowns last week. Unfortunately, Breece Hall was tackled inside the 1 twice, which is just crazy luck. That how many times has Zach Wilson thrown a ball that has been caught and the player's been down at the 1? It feels like so many times, which that would be a really nice day. But I think Breece Hall steals the show with 19 carries for 105 yards and a touchdown. He goes over 100 rushing yards this week. And obviously I mentioned 2 passing touchdowns. Garrett Wilson gets in the end zone, and Elijah Moore. I am going to continue to ride the Elijah Moore train. He's too good to not produce. I think eventually he's going to start producing. And this week I have Elijah Moore getting more involved. Now let's get to the score predictions and picks against the spread, which is brought to you by BUSR. BUSR.com/Matt to sign up. You can place your bets. You can make your deposit there, and they are matching your deposit and giving you additional casino chips. That's where I place my wagers on the NFL and the New York Jets. They are a very trusted and reputable sports book, and that's where I go because they have great odds and great markets. So I am 2-3 against the spread, and I am picking the Jets to cover. The point spread is 7 points. 7? Come on now. The Green Bay Packers have not played like a team that deserves to be favored by a touchdown over anybody, and the Jets are playing good football right now. The defense has stepped up. Got to give some credit to our guy, Jeff Ulbrich, but he's done a pretty nice job. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be gutsy enough to pick the Jets to win. They have a very big 3 games coming up against the Packers, the Broncos, and the Patriots. Spoiler, I think you need to take 2 out of 3. If they take 3 of 3, I would be absolutely thrilled. I think they lose a tight game. I'm going to take the Packers 27-24 in overtime, which, yes, that would be a loss. And the Jets always play the Packers tough. The last time they played them in 2018, arguably Sam Darnold's best game in his career, was a wild game at MetLife Stadium I was there for. In 2014, Geno Smith and the New York Jets get up to a big lead. I seem to remember Eric Decker scoring a touchdown early, maybe a couple touchdowns early. And then before that, in 2010, you lost like 10-0 or 9-0 on Halloween. You had the game in 2006 where the Jets went up there and laid the smackdown on them. In 2002, you had the Jets in the final week of the year laying the beat down on them to clinch the playoff spot or clinch the division. So the Jets play the Packers tight, and I think they do it again. I'm going to say 27-24 in overtime, but the young team looks good. Zach Wilson looks good, but Aaron Rodgers leads a winning field goal drive in overtime to get it done. Let's see who Casey likes this week against the spread. She is on the Jets +7 as well. She is 3-2 against the spread. So hopefully we both win this week. Let me know what you think about this game down below in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, I'm Matt O'Leary. Please make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share with a friend, give it a thumbs up. I'll talk to you next time.